I love looking at data. I love looking at numbers for real estate sales and what's going on in the market because it really does help me talk to my clients, work with my clients, and do this show. And so today I want to talk a little bit about a chart that I saw where they took all the data from Realtor.com and put it into a visual form of the income needed to buy a home in 2025. So this is median household income. Okay. It's not average, it's median. And it is sourced from April 2025 data from Realtor.com, and these figures factor in a 6.65% interest rate for a 30-year loan with a 10% down payment. Now, I'm going to tell you off the bat that it is it's more rare for me to see 10% than 5%. The majority of loans that I do are somewhere below 10% down payment. Of course, when you get into upper limits, the down payment goes up. If you're looking at a jumbo loan, sometimes that is a 25% or sometimes, a little bit less, but at least 25% down payment. So we have to take a look at all of that. And some of this is not surprising, but some of this is. And let's start kind of at sort of I'm going to put my foot in my mouth here and say, like, the problem children. Okay, the most expensive, traditionally the most expensive part of our country, which is anything along the Pacific Ocean. So we're looking at California, Oregon, Washington, and Hawaii. Okay. Alaska, it's its own little issues, but not as much of a problem as California and the West Coast. Okay. Not a surprise, 210,000 in California, and equally not surprising, Hawaii. If you know anything about Hawaii, you know that the real estate market in Hawaii is just off the chains insanity. And, there's obvious reasons why. They are island. It's an island state. Okay. It's an island state made up of islands, and there's only so much land to go around. And obviously there are costs involved in shipping product, and home building is more expensive, and it's just messy. Now, California has always been the high rent district in the country. The taxes are higher there, and it does reflect. But on the other side of that, there are high wages there. And so this is not an affordability chart. This is just the median income needed to buy a house. And so just taking a look at that, we can see California, Oregon, and Washington being expensive. But there's a couple of things that I did not expect. Okay. Now, I expected, Nevada and Arizona and New Mexico are not surprising to me because of their location. But I am surprised with Idaho, Wyoming, and Montana. Now, I know that there has been migration from the West Coast to those three states. And I know that there are a lot of second homes and third homes up there. And I have been there. I absolutely love those three states. And if I ever disappear, that's where I'm at. One of those three, don't come find me. But these are interesting. This is interesting data for me because I did not expect it. I expected Utah and I expected Colorado, but I did not expect Idaho and Montana and Wyoming. Okay. So just an interesting look at this. Texas, not a shocker. What's really interesting though is if this was a chart pre-COVID, this would have been significantly lower. We had a lot of migration from the West Coast to Texas in the last few years during COVID. And, you can see that Florida also received a decent amount of migration. So, take that for whatever it's worth. Now, regionally, Northeast is always going to be like this. You know, the state of New York, 190,000, also fairly high tax state, lots of regulation, and that reflects in some of these states. Okay, Massachusetts is 216, so they are actually above California as far as median income. So that's a really interesting thing to look at. And then you've got New Jersey at 157, Connecticut at 144, 138 Delaware, 118 Maryland, which is not much different than North Carolina, and 101 in South Carolina. Okay. So this, and if you look at the South overall, okay, and let's add West Virginia in there, even though they're not technically, I don't know what they're part of. But we've got Kentucky here, we've got Tennessee, Arkansas at 83,000, Oklahoma at 85,000, Louisiana at 79,000, 83,000 in Mississippi, 93 in Alabama, 109 in Georgia, 101 in South Carolina, and 115 in North Carolina. So what we're looking at here is a fairly, you know, less expensive place to live. And then if you go into the central part of the country, Ohio has always been, there's been a decent amount of affordability. I am surprised that Pennsylvania is not higher, but it's a big state. There's a lot of rural areas in PA. Frankly, I think it's one of the most beautiful states on earth. And it's very beautiful there. Indiana, 80,000, Illinois, 83,000. I'm sure that is not including Chicago. Iowa, 81, Missouri, 83, 83 in Arkansas, and here we go, 81 in Kansas. So, you know, the central part of the country, you know, I don't know if you call this Midwest. It's kind of weird. You know, what do you call Missouri? What do you call Kansas and Oklahoma, Arkansas? But these are, along with the Southeast, even though Tennessee's become a more expensive place to live, it's a popular place. There are some extremely expensive areas of Nashville. And as there are some fairly expensive places in Charlotte and Raleigh. So this is just an interesting bit of data for me. And I just thought I would show that to you today. Obviously, you don't have to make $115,000 to buy a house in North Carolina. There are places that you can go where you don't have to, you know, have that expense. There are some ways that you can work through things if you're flexible. New construction, I mean, builders are bending over backwards right now to get you in a house. And if you consider new construction, there are some absolute amazing incentives for buyers that are looking at new construction. They truly are like rolling out the red carpet for you because their job is to move homes along. Okay. So, and if you have a remote job, we've talked about this before, if you work remotely and are willing to move out a little bit, you can benefit from more rural areas in or just outside of our metro region. And, you know, in North Carolina, that may be Hickory, that may be Lincolnton, that could be somewhere between Charlotte and Asheville, that could be Columbia, South Carolina, that could be my favorite little South Carolina town, Hartsville, right now. You know, it could be Laurinburg, North Carolina is a very, very inexpensive town to live in. And it's growing and things are getting better there. But this is, you know, to make things more affordable. What do you need to do to find a home that you can afford? So that's what I wanted to talk about today. I also have something else that I'm going to show you because I find it really, really interesting, and it may I think it's just a link that I have. And here we go. And I have experienced this myself, so don't think this is something new for the market. Here's the deal. I'm having some issues with sellers thinking their homes are worth more than they really are. And, we look at data a lot here on this page. We look at sales figures every Monday. And in the Charlotte metro region, we are seeing good sales numbers, but there are some homes that are sitting on the market. And a lot of times they're sitting on the market because their agents, and I am one of them right now, is having a hard time getting their sellers to budge. And this is problematic for us. And I have a house right now that really needs a significant price reduction, and the seller is sticking with the price in their head, not what the market is telling them. So this article is from Realtor.com, and it says that price reductions surge as sellers overestimate the market. And I was talking to an agent last week about the market and how we still have sellers that think that they can overprice their house and get what they want for it. And it's something that we talk about a little bit. What you don't want to do if you're a home seller, chasing the market down is a very bad idea. Okay. You have to really dig into numbers. And it's been very apparent to me, especially this week. I have a set of clients that are high analytical, very analytical, want to see price per square foot, need data to help them craft an offer for a home. And they've picked out a home that's overpriced. And I know it's overpriced because I've dug into that data, and it's a hard thing to do to put an offer in that's 10% below list. It's a really, really hard, like it's a soul sucking job. But that's my job, to follow my clients, direction. So here's the situation. If you think your house is worth X, you really have to dig into the data. You need to look at what sales prices are doing. You need to look at how quickly homes are going on and off the market for similar homes. One thing you don't want to do is get a stale listing, a home that's been on the market a significant amount of time, because when your listing gets stale, guess what happens? It sits. And you end up underselling your home for a price that, if you had been reasonable in the beginning, you could have gotten your home sold pretty quickly. So this is just a chart that shows the percentage of price reductions for the month of April. Here we have North Carolina at 19% and South Carolina at 21%. Tennessee's at 21, Florida's at 25. Florida's got their own problems. And a lot of it has to do with insurance. And remember that building, that condo building that fell in Florida a few years ago? That building falling has had big ramifications for the condominium industry in the entire country. And we just need to keep an eye on it. If you're thinking about buying a condo, you need to call me, because we got to talk about it. It may be a better situation to buy a townhouse or a single family, just because of the mortgage implications and the insurance implications on that. So these are the reductions, price reductions. And here's the situation. If you bought your home in 2017, 2018, even 2015 to 2020, even like 2020, 2021, you have a significant amount of equity in your home. But pricing your home appropriately is so incredibly important. And this article talks about they quote a director of business development at a real estate firm down in Florida. Overpricing your home based on a gut feeling or wishful thinking can be a dire mistake. And she says, I think it's, yeah, that She frequently encounters sellers who mistakenly believe their routine cosmetic updates, such as fresh paint or new molding, will command a significant price premium over other homes in the area. Okay. They very much think their home is better than everyone else's. On HGTV, when you landscape and paint and add new light fixtures, you just add 20 grand to your list price, right? That's just not the way the market is. Okay. So, and I have a listing that's stale. I have a stale listing right now. It's lingering on the market longer than normal. It's one of those red flag houses because people might think that there's something wrong with the home or that the seller is not negotiable, which can happen. Homes typically spent 50 days on the market last month, 4 more than a year ago, and the longest median time on the market for the month of April since 2020. If you overprice your home, it's going to sit on the market and it's going to get stale. And then you're going to be chasing the price down to where the market's willing to pay for it. This is it right here. If you overprice your home, you are chasing the market down and it is a race to the bottom. If my seller had priced their home where it is now, or even a little bit higher than it is now, this time last year, I would not be having a conversation about this house. I would not, because it would be sold. Now, my client is having to go to a place where they don't want to go. And I am going to their house tomorrow to have this conversation and take this information with me because they have to get real about this market. And the market is not red hot. So if you are thinking about selling, this is my recommendation to you. Do not compare apples to oranges. If you have a home that you think is priced at $850, you need to get some qualified, highly qualified agent to help you with pricing. Okay. If you have concerns about it, we can go to an appraiser and do what they call a desktop appraisal. If it's a difficult house, if it's got acreage, if it's got some unique features, we can do that so that you can get an appropriate listing price. But at this point, where we are is a lot of people look at new construction sales, not taking into account the fact that builders are offering 3.9% interest rates or rate buy downs to get people in homes, which is a significant cost savings and can offset a price by thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, possibly even $100,000. So don't look at new construction if you've got a resale. Don't look at a house on a half an acre lot if you've got 4 or 5 acres, and vice versa. Don't look at land sales, and don't think that a neighborhood coming in down the road on third of an acre lots is going to reflect in your house that's on 4 acres. You know, we have a lot of people in our population now that are happy living in neighborhoods on small lots so that there's not maintenance to them as much. And if you've got acreage, that is a smaller and smaller piece of our market than ever. So here's my take on it. If you're thinking about selling, you've got to look at comps that have sold, obviously, but you don't want to look at 6-month-old comps if you can help it. You want to look at comps that have recently gone under contract. Now, we in North and South Carolina are not allowed to disclose terms, but I can call up a listing agent and say, hey, Miss Listing Agent, I saw that your house went under contract in 2 days. I have a house that's coming on the market soon that's similar. Could you give me an indication if your offer was kind of close to list? You can get some ideas from that without the disclosure of the terms and conditions. So take a look at those homes that just went under contract. And this is what's happened with a client of mine, my analytical folks who are digging in on data and have found a very similar home that went under contract in 2 days that is selling for, I think about $45 a square foot less than the home that they want to purchase. And so for us as agents, we have to be aware of what's happening right now in the market. And those homes that are under contract are at a place where a buyer has said, this is what I'm going to pay. And the seller has said, okay with me. So we've had a meeting in the middle, meeting of the minds about pricing, and this has worked. Okay. And this is how it works in pricing. And for me, I take a look at what has gone under contract. And this is not data that you can just pull up on Zillow. You have to have someone take a look at it. I talked to some potential folks the other day that, we were talking and they were pulling up things on Zillow, and what they were pulling up was accurate, but what they didn't have was anything that had gone under contract. So here's the situation. Take a look, have your agent pull all the homes that are similar to yours, shape, size, lot size, and age, and take a look at that price per square foot, take a look at the features, and build out your value based on that. And let me tell you, we're not in 2021. The market has kind of taken a breath. So ensure that you are making the right decisions about your home and just go for it. But don't overprice because it can hurt you. It can cost you money. If you underprice your home, if you're slightly below market value in your home, typically the market's going to notice that there is some value there, and it gives you the best option for multiple offers. But if you overprice your home, you are lowering your gap. You are lowering the number of people that are going to take a look at your home. Just keep that in mind, and I hope that things go well for you in your home sale. If you have any questions about selling your home and you want some tips, you need some help, let me know. I would love to chat with you. You can always reach out to me at 704-617-0847. And I'd love for you to sign up for my newsletter at cltmarketbuzz.com, cltmarketbuzz.com. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Happy Friday to you. I will see you Monday morning at 9:30 a.m. sharp. I hope you have a great one. I'll see you next week. Bye.